Good morning, everyone, and welcome into Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. Hashtag no stopping you. Happy Tuesday, episode number 82 on the podcast. I keep saying every day that things change quickly, and certainly we know that that's the world right now with the pandemic and everything that's going on. In the time that I finished up yesterday's episode, somewhere right after that, or maybe even during, notification came out that the Royals were going to play 3 exhibition games next week. They've just been playing against themselves with this, what they're calling quote unquote summer camp. And so I saw that, and the notification said the Royals are going to play 3 games next week against the Astros and the Cardinals, and they'll all be televised on Fox Sports Kansas City. And I thought, wow, actually get to go back to work next week. So I am going to be working next Monday night's game on Fox Sports Kansas City, next Wednesday afternoon's game on Fox Sports Kansas City. That'll be in St. Louis, but I'll be here. That's kind of the way our world's going to work. So fun little development there, and I know we've got a lot of baseball fans that certainly follow me on Twitter. So we'll have baseball back. I think last night's game was actually, Intra-Squad was on YouTube. With all that said, I'll keep doing this show. Thanks to everybody at Enterprise Bank and Trust. And one of the elements that I love about this show is just telling interesting stories. And there's so many of them out there. I sort of joke or even tell myself, which sounds weird that I'm joking with myself, that until the stories dry up, I'll keep doing this. I don't think the stories ever dry up. So that's the case today. And one of the fun things to me about this pandemic, I know that sounds weird too, but there have been positives amidst so many negatives, is just meeting different people. And most of everyone that I've met during this pandemic has been virtual. And that is certainly the case for my guest today. Cate DePrisco is joining me. Hi, Cate. Good
Hi.
to see you in the only way that I've ever seen you, in like in a box. Sometimes it's been on a Zoom call with more boxes, and I know that you and I were on a weekly call for a bit with just a bunch of people looking for connection early on, which was the world we were living in. But Cate and her husband have a company that this is just so much the pandemic entrepreneurial story that was thriving, and then just like that, it all went away. And there's so much about pivot and resiliency here. So first and foremost, before we talk about the photo bus, how are you doing? How are you hanging in there? I mean, oh, by the way, husband, kids, there's more to do than just surviving in terms of business. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm tired.
Yeah.
We have 2 little kids. I'll have a 2-year-old in September, and I have a 4.5-year-old. And so the pandemic, when they were taken out of school, was really challenging. So here we are, 2 business owners of the same business that has tanked in the event industry, with 2 young children trying to navigate it. So I'm tired, I'm stressed, but we've made some changes with our company in the last few days, even, that I feel like are really going to help push us through. So I'm feeling optimistic about 2021 with the event industry. Just trying to hang in there.
Well, and you have, I think that you have that background, and I want to get into, you're going through the Peace Corps, and then that entrepreneurial spirit, and
Yeah,
and you've gone down some really interesting journeys. But let's talk about the photo bus first and foremost,
sure.
and let people know. I think people have heard of it, seen it at an event, and it was at a lot of events until it wasn't. Again, I mean, unfortunately, that's just the story of so many. But tell me about the photo bus, KC, and what you guys do and how that started.
Yeah, so the Photo Bus is a photo booth activation company. So we do elevated experience. So it started with just a Volkswagen bus that was an add-on to our wedding photography services. We added 3 more different types of photo booths. We've added 3 more since then. And then we added the branded experiences. So we were at every Chiefs game last year with a wrapped Airstream out in the Ford tailgate. And then we also had photo booths that were inside the actual stadium. So, we're everywhere. We do so many different types of events. If there are guests, if there are people that are wanting entertainment, we are there.
And Obviously there need to be events, there need to be people, and those are the things. I mean, look, it's the same as me. It's like, I can't go broadcast baseball if there's not baseball to broadcast, and fortunately for me that'll change next week even without people because they can get the players together. There's hope here. I know there is. I mean, you talked about 2021, but I just want to go back. Let's set up first and foremost what things were like February, March, and then suddenly getting knocked down the way you were. It's the story of so many, and I've often said that early on it was like every day felt like a new theme. And then it became every week felt like a new theme.
Yeah.
Then every month felt like a new theme. So to me now it's more like this is what July is like, this is what June is like. But in March and April it was like this is what Monday was like. This is what Tuesday was like. So give me a little bit of pre-COVID and then sort of how things evolved.
So we were set up at the Big 12 tournament with 2 wrapped buses. March 12th, if I believe was the date. And that's when things started canceling. And we're like, oh no, we'll be fine. We were pulled after day 1, and it was a 6-day activation. That was all day long that we were supposed to be there. So that was how our Monday, for example, went. Our big jobs were literally pulled out from under us. Weddings, we sent out emails just like, hey, know that we're here. Don't stress, don't worry. And then people started postponing, and then fall weddings started postponing, and we just don't know. So it's been a wave.
So you can't plan for this, but I know that nobody. I shouldn't say nobody can. I think that we're all collectively, no matter what we do, in a different place today than we were even when this started. Hopefully, everyone has learned different lessons. Not so much I did this wrong. I guess there are probably some companies that had pandemic plans, but certainly for a small business, you're not thinking like that. I'm sure you thought like for me, I always thought, okay, if I were to get sick, or if someone in the family got sick, and I would have to take time off, and as a guy that gets paid by the game, I'd have to figure that out. But I didn't think that the whole country would be sick, so to speak.
The world.
The world, right? The world, right? And
yeah. So my dad's been telling me for years. He's like, Cate, he's a financial advisor, and he goes, it's gonna hit again. Just be prepared. People are going to cut their spending, and I'm like, okay, I can prepare for that. It's fine. But I didn't expect the world to stop. And there was no way. I mean, at least in my, maybe there was, but in my mind, there was no way to plan for it. And we talked about, I went through the scale up program at Kaufman. So they really focused on how to work on your business instead of in it. And they put those factors in front of us. And they're like, what are the things that might happen that you need to be prepared for with your business? Well, nobody said this.
Right. So what did that program though teach you, or not even so much? I mean, yes, what did it teach you, but how did what you learned from that help you today? Because while they didn't, as you mentioned, say here's what to do during a pandemic, they did teach you an element that, look, I'm quite frankly still learning too. I told you this when we were emailing last night, that I know how to do this. I know how to broadcast. I know how to speak to companies. It's not working in the business, it's managing the business. And you're needing to manage the business now more than ever in creative ways. Were there lessons you learned from that experience that can help you today?
Yeah, so I mean, they really taught us to work on the business, not in it. So instead of us, my husband and I, working all of the events, which we're actually back to having to do, so we're not risking our staff getting sick. We have to risk our family. But they really focused on that to prepare me for it. And they gave me the tools that I have in front of me. So there's a lot of things, like I've been saying for for a year, I wish I could just hit pause for 2 weeks so I can knock all of the things out that I need to do. But I expected my children to still be in school so that I could have those 8-hour work days to knock those things out. And unfortunately, I wasn't quite given it in that way. But what I have been able to do, since I haven't been doing the nitty gritty of preparing for events or having to work around that, is I've been able to go back in my business and actually start working through all of those processes, all of those operations, all of those things that I kind of had in place, but not near to the detail that I've wanted them to be. And I think that that's the biggest thing that Scale Up prepared me for, was giving me a list of to-do items to put my business in the place that when it does come back, I have all of those things ready to go and we can hire and dive right in.
It's not an easy thing to do. I feel like I've been the same way, because your mind and your survival, for that matter, goes to the money side of things, of course.
Yeah.
But I think it is a matter of survival. You got to survive and then make steps forward that don't always show themselves in terms of dollars, in terms of the finances right away. But I think, and it sounds like you're doing that, you're setting everything up so when things do get back to normal, and I've said it over and over again, getting back to normal isn't the old normal, it's a new normal, but you're positioned well for that, and you're not then scrambling on day one. You're ready to go and you're crushing it. I know that's easier said than done, but I think it's everything behind the scenes. So let's get to the background a little bit. When you went off into the Peace Corps, what were your hopes and expectations? I know you didn't think you'd be sitting here today as a mother of two. Well, you might have thought you'd be a mother of two, but running your own business with future husband and in the entertainment space, let alone COVID. So what were the dreams and aspirations as you went into the Peace Corps?
Well, there were a few different things. When I joined the Peace Corps, the biggest reason for joining it was because when I finished my degree at KU in French, I was not confident in my ability to speak, read, or write the language. And so my hope was that I was able to go into a French-speaking country and be fully immersed in it, which my study abroad experience showed me worked really well. So it's like, hey, I'm going to be like 100% fluent in this language. Went to Romanian, Russian-speaking country instead. And so that kind of went by the wayside. But the other part I was actually trying to figure out was whether or not teaching was actually what I wanted to do. So I was an English education teacher in a village of 2,000 people, and most of the parents were working abroad. And I was going down that track. I was also trying to search for a significant other, which is never a reason to really go down a path, because I had put myself to the side. And I was also just wanting to travel the world.
Not a bad thing, by the way. No. Although you ended up, I know you told me that you ended up in Moldova.
I was in Moldova. Mm-hmm.
Which I don't think most people that I know have ever been there before, and that really
didn't. It's good to visit when we can travel.
Well, sure. I bet I don't know that really checked that box of working on your French. I told you that my brother was in the Peace Corps, and his future wife was in the Peace Corps back 96 to 98, I think. And he was in the West African country of Togo, which nowadays I don't think is a safe place to be anymore, but right next to Benin and Ghana, in between those two, Western Africa. That would have been a good spot for you in terms of the French, because they actually speak French and other dialects over there. But what did the Moldova experience do for you? What was it like over there?
It was, I couldn't have been in a better place. They definitely put me in the right spot. Winters were really hard, at least the first winter, but I was also going through a breakup, so it made it even more challenging. I did feel very isolated at times, but it's an experience. Like, I have so many learning milestones that came from it. Like, not judging people by your first interaction with them and giving them a second chance. And then, I learned that teaching a classroom setting isn't right for me, but I was teaching somebody how to get their kids to sleep over Instagram this week. And like, I can still teach in different ways. And it was awesome learning another new language. So, the people there are on the outside, they are these, most of them are cold, hard shells, but the inside, they are the kindest, sweetest, most hospitable people that I've ever met. And so the experience was, I mean, like they say, it's the hardest job you'll ever love. And that is what it is. And the experience, I think, was harder than the job.
So, how much did the Peace Corps experience shape you and who you are, and even what you're doing and responding today? Because what it sounds like to me, and I think most people experience this when they're immersed in a different culture,
Mm-hmm.
is that they usually come out with a greater understanding of not just that group of people, but understanding the importance of being empathetic and walking in someone else's shoes because we're all so different. So, how much has that helped you as you're dealing with your own stuff right now? Understanding that your situation is tough, so are other people's. Has that helped you navigate this a little bit?
I don't know. The years that I was there were my early 20s. And that is
Mm,
just, it's a really, for anybody, no matter what you're doing, that is like a 2-year block of extreme growth and exploration because it's right after college. And
mm-hmm.
um, so, I mean, I don't know necessarily that experience is what helped me. I think everything in my life, like when you ask if I ever would have thought I would have been here today having this conversation, well, no, but did you? You know,
Yeah.
there's, I could have gone left instead of right, and my experience in my life would be completely different, literally walking down a street one day. And so I do think, though, that there are so many things that came from that experience that have led me to have the mindset, the optimism, the I care about people so much, and I am an incredibly empathetic person. So I do feel, I see images of other people struggling through this, and I'm like, well, I mean, at least we got the PPP.
Mm-hmm.
At least we can support our family for a few weeks,
Yeah.
and at least we still have shelter.
Well, I think everything's perspective, and I guess that's a little bit of where I was going. And I don't know. I'm really not familiar with Moldova, so I don't know if you saw situations over there with people that gave you a different appreciation for having that roof over your head. I mean, that's what I always think about is no matter how bad things are on any given day, there is someone that is worse. So things aren't what I thought they were going to be, but yet, boy, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Every time it feels really bad, I sit there and say, it's not that bad.
So that village, I forget the percentages now, but the majority of the children in the school, their parents worked abroad.
Hmm.
So they were being raised by their grandparents that were
Wow.
sick and tired. And I mean, and most of them didn't really want to be there with the children because they didn't even have help because the parents were gone. So it wasn't like here where we have a grandparent that comes babysits the kids a few days or for a few hours a day. It's no, it's all the time.
Yeah.
And they have to do that in order to provide money for their families. And they're working as nannies with other families or just, it's an ex-Soviet country. So most of them are in Russia. Um, and life is hard there. They're living in, these parents who have a beautiful home in their village are living in an apartment with 12 other people in Russia so that their family has money.
Mm-hmm.
And I can be here with my kids
Mm-hmm.
when we have no money coming in.
Right. I mean, again, it's all perspective. I also think it's interesting. I mean, we all grow over time. We all learn. Hopefully, I think that I have, and I think most of us do. But when you look, like my path is, they're all unique, but my path is different, just in the sense that I always knew I wanted to be on TV, and I didn't know what it would look like. I wanted to be the guy on Sports Center or on the local news, and I did go the local news route. Never thought that I would be traveling with a baseball team and then a speaking career and a pod. No, we didn't know what podcasts were obviously back then. So you know, in many ways, I went the path that I expected, and then it's branched off into other things. But you sort of thought you were going down one path and then went the other. Tell me about that journey of you know thinking agency world and then going off on your own. And it is that classic story to me of following your heart. Um, Take me through that journey and looking back on it, what you think?
So, looking back on it, I'll start there. It was a journey, and I wouldn't be here if I hadn't have been there. So when I went to college, all I wanted to do was be a photographer. And so I wanted to get a business sense. I don't feel like I had much guidance on what to be looking for when I was searching for colleges or thinking about a career. I was just kind of like stabbing in the dark. So I went the advertising and marketing route, and then as my classes got more intense, they kept talking about working for an agency. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I'm trying to learn this to support my own photography business. And me being an 18-year-old with blinders on, didn't see how I could use what I was learning and apply it to my business or even be open to other opportunities. And then did the Peace Corps route. So majored in French, did the Peace Corps route, came back, met my husband at his now husband at his second public event, working the photo bus actually. And at that time I had an internship at a digital marketing agency and I loved it. I loved what I was doing. And then I started working with him a little bit more with his photography and was like, oh wait, now I'm back to what I initially wanted to do. Like, yeah, let's do this together. How romantic to own a business with your husband doing what you love. So, or boyfriend, I guess at the time. And so I quit that internship that I loved where I was gaining experience that again, I could be applying here. They also offered me a job. I turned it down because I was following my heart and went all in to do this business with him. And it's taken so many different paths. It started again just as the add-on with the photography. And then I started doing birth photography, which is a whole other topic that was amazing for me and amazing for people. And then we put all into this photo booth thing full time. We now have branded hand sanitizing stations because that's how we've had to pivot. And everything in my life, it has led to this point, but I'm also a firm believer and you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. So I know a lot and I've gotten to where we are with what I've known, but Scale Up taught me so many things that I was like, what is the profit and loss? Like, no wonder banks laughed at us when we wanted loans. And I gave them a basic spreadsheet. Like, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah. I mean, look, I can relate from my business side because I never took a business class.
Yeah.
You know, and you learn as you go and you hopefully learn from your mistakes and don't make them, you know, too much over and over again. That's, you know, that's the journey for so many. And, yeah. and I think it's, you know, I think that could be a good thing too. I mean, you know, you followed your heart, and had you not followed your heart, you would have always wondered what that would have looked like. Yeah. And so, you know, you're better, I believe, just from what you've told me, for it. I want to pull up the website because one, it looks great, thephotobusKC.com, and it'll give people a little bit of an idea. I think a lot of people that are watching this maybe have been in the photo bus before, or one of them have certainly seen it at events, and obviously we need to get back to that point. But I also want to click on this so we can talk about it. But having to adjust, and I love what you wrote here too. We so feel you, we so hear you. We are right here with you, and now more than ever, we're ready to party. So here's what you can expect from us as we work together to navigate these unexpected COVID times. Tell me about the pivot right now for COVID, because, you know, the reality of it is this, and you know this, Cate, that if the focus on your marketing and your business is how to get money today, people are going to tune you out, but they are starting to spend. They need to get back to a point where they're comfortable. You know, I think the biggest question people have is, okay, if we do this, is it safe? If we do this, what's it going to look like? People want to be communicated with. They want transparency. They want reassurances. What are you hearing, and how are you pivoting in terms of the photo bus?
So we're currently selling hand sanitizer stations. So we're renting them to individual events like weddings, so they don't have to buy them. So we are doing that, and then also selling them to bigger companies. So we have, I need to turn off that chat now, people are talking. So we're doing these branded hand sanitizer stations that people can have in their places of business, and it's branded for them and it's touchless. And then I had a mindset shift, which is what I kind of referenced earlier in the conversation on. I need to be focusing on next year. So these hand
Mm-hmm.
sanitizer stations aren't going anywhere. I know that. But we've been trying to push a lot of marketing, doing some paid ads for the right now, but that's not going to help me next year. So we're trying to do a shift on something. I still don't expect our booths to be happening. So trying to ramp up our rentals and our fun ones. So like our custom marquee sign, or not marquee signs, I'm sorry, the custom LED neon signs. So we're working on those and building like other games that guests can be playing. And, as weddings are happening again, they are looking different. Some of them, some aren't. Most guests aren't wearing masks, and vendors are, and it's a weird spot to be as a vendor because we have a contract with a client, and it's just a really it's a hard spot to be in.
Yeah, it is because you've got a business to run,
Mm-hmm.
and oh, by the way, people aren't going to stop getting married. Now it becomes a matter of where the comfort level is. Are they
Forever.
observing for everyone? What in my opinion, you're indoors. You should have a mask, or at worst case, be at a distance. That's a little tough to do when you're out there dancing and celebrating and all of that. No, by the way, there's some drinking going on and some judgment and all of that. But then again, I would think you have a chance to help make an impact there. But you're also working for the client, so it's like, where do you go there? I got a couple of comments that have come in. If you have the Aaron Falk endorsement, then you are good there. Good morning, Aaron. Um,
That's my aunt.
Very nice.
Thanks, Aunt
And
Kathy.
Kathy and Kiana's the master of the emojis,
Oh,
among many other things. So I think I see the little cameras there, and Cate is still smiling. You seem to me, I don't know you well, but you seem to be one. I'm not saying that there aren't. I know you're going through tough times like so many of us are. That smile will take you a long ways, though. I mean, it's just you can't force a smile, right? But I think it's who you are.
it is.
So I hope that's a perspective that continues to stay with you. So as we wrap things up, a couple final things. First off, what to you does 2021 look like? Or I don't want to hold you to when this is going to end, but this will end at some point. And
Maybe.
I think it's going to be longer than what many of us expected initially. I knew when they said initially, and I'm not that smart, but when they said baseball 2 weeks, I seem to remember them saying, I'm like, there's no way it's just going to be 2 weeks. But I really thought that I would be back to work, later May, early June, and then I suddenly thought July 4th, and so now it's going to be July 24th. But we got a ways to go. So I'm not asking you to give a date, but what do things look like ideally for you post pandemic?
Oh, I would love to be doing 350 events again a year, which is where we were before. I'm also seeking other opportunities. Something that my husband and I have learned is our marriage is a lot healthier when we have something separate, and that's more than just like an hour apart a day. So, I mean, post pandemic, things are going to look very different for us personally, but I think our business is going to be back and thriving. It's just when.
Yeah. So everyone, I would encourage you, if you don't have to be getting married, by the way, either.
No.
If you have any kind of event going on, who doesn't like pictures and capturing the moment? Uh, photobuskc.com, and whether that's looking down the road or whatever it is, jump in right now. Help support a local business. It's important, and we will get back to good times. I think we're getting back to good times in different ways, in my opinion, too quickly on certain fronts. But I I think that what my opinion here is that we do have to find ways to be able to entertain, to be able um, to do it safely too. By the way, but I know so many of us just felt locked up for so long that it was those neighborhood social distancing, happy hours and Zoom happy hours, or just a Zoom call or whatever it is. Um, I know people are itching to get back to normal. I don't know when it comes, but I think when it does, they're going to be calling, and
Yeah.
that's certainly my hope for you, and I think that that's what you're working towards right now. So
Yeah.
um, So good luck with that.
Thanks.
And you know, it's easy to say it's all going to work out, but I do think it will. It's just not easy.
Right.
If that makes sense, right?
Yeah, just time. That's all.
Just time. Well, as I told you before we got on, just keep surviving, and helping others. And you're doing that. You guys are doing that. So it's an amazing journey. It's one that hasn't gone the way you thought lately, but guess what? It never does,
Yeah.
right? But I think that you guys were doing big things. You'll continue to do big things. So I'm excited for your future. I really am. Last question, and I've asked a lot of my guests this, but I think it's an interesting one, especially for an entrepreneur, but really for all of us. What to this point's your biggest takeaway from this pandemic? What's something that'll stick with you forever in terms of something you learned?
I saw this posted somewhere, and
I didn't steal it from them, but I'm unfortunately, I guess I'm not as original as I thought.
I think the biggest takeaway is communicating. Um, Communicating thoughts, feelings, unknowns, fears, things you're excited about, whether it's personally or professionally. And vulnerability and honesty has become really big right now. And that's something that I am known for. But it's something that I am even more proud of since going through this.
I couldn't agree with you more. And that vulnerability, that honesty, that transparency, that willing to help others, it'll always win out in the end. I want to pop this up one more time before we let you go because the headline here: the guest experience is looking a little different without guests. When you are ready to party, we will be too. I love that you're basically saying we will be here for you when the time is right. And down here at the bottom, three things to do: join the mailing list, leave a review on the Knot or Google, and refer friends planning events. So everyone has an opportunity to help. So just go to the photobuskc.com. This part of the page is photobuskc.com/COVID. Join the mailing list. Just help support. Keep supporting those local businesses like Cate's, and we're all going to come through this one. So Cate, it was great to visit with you today. I know that we met somewhere back on one of those calls that our friend Jared Keneally was having, bringing people together, by the way, and meeting people. I remember you sending me a LinkedIn message about joining the group or whatever it is. So I'm glad that we had a chance to talk about your story a little bit. Truly, congratulations on the success and what is coming, because I know there'll be some big things ahead.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate you asking me to be on this.
Well, my pleasure. Again, the photobuskc.com. Hang tight for 1 second, Cate, and great to visit with her. Even good to get some of the family members chiming in too. Hey, speaking of which, now Cate's off stage there. But John, you're welcome, and it's great to highlight the business. It's so easy to pull for local businesses like you guys that really make an impact in the community and the moments that we remember really for our lives. So appreciate everyone visiting today. Episode number 82 is in the books. Tomorrow, really interesting one, another interesting journey. A former college football superstar whose football aspirations of going to the NFL, which were very legitimate, derailed by major injury, never made it, and yet now suddenly finds himself successful in the business world and on his way to Stanford Business School. Grew up in a small town in Kansas and now ready to make it big out in Northern California at Stanford. So we'll share that story tomorrow. Hope you'll share this episode with everyone. Just send those links away wherever you're watching it, on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. I'll post it on LinkedIn. And I hope to catch you tomorrow on Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. #NoStopping You. Stay safe, everyone, and see you tomorrow.